What if I told you that one of the most mysterious royal families in Europe claimed that their bloodline came from something not entirely human, but from the sea? Yes, a dynasty that said their founder was born from a strange sea creature, and because of this, their kings carried a sacred right to rule. This family's symbols were long hair and even honeybees, and their legend has never really died. It stretches from medieval kings to the powerful Knights Templar, through secret societies, and even into today's popular culture. Some say their descendants are still among the world's most powerful people today. Now, before we go deeper, don't forget to subscribe to this channel. That way you'll never miss these kinds of hidden histories that stretch across time and leave us wondering where truth ends and myth begins. So, who were they? They were called the Merovingians, and they ruled large parts of Europe more than 1,500 years ago. Their story begins with mystery. According to legend, the mother of their founder was visited not by her husband, but by a strange sea creature, sometimes described as half man, half beast, half fish. The child that came from this union was Merovec, the supposed founder of the dynasty. Because of this, the Merovingians claimed their bloodline was special, touched by something beyond the human world. Of course, historians debate whether this was just a story to make their rule seem divine, but back in those days, people believed in the sacred power of kings. And what better way to keep power than to convince everyone you were more than just a man? The Merovingians were also called the long-haired kings. You see, their long hair wasn't just a style. It was a symbol of their sacred right to rule. Cutting their hair meant stripping away their royal power. Imagine that, something as simple as hair being tied to the idea of kingship and divine blessing. They also used the honeybee as one of their sacred symbols. The bee represented immortality and resurrection, linking them once again to something holy. Now, let's move into history we can trace. The most famous early Merovingian king was Clovis I. He came to power in the late 400s, when the Roman Empire had already collapsed in the West, and Europe was full of shifting tribes and new kingdoms. Clovis was clever, and he knew that in order to truly secure power, he needed more than just warriors. He needed religion. So Clovis made a decision that changed history. He converted to Catholic Christianity. This was not common among the tribal kings of the time. Most of them were Arian Christians or still followed old pagan gods. But by embracing Catholicism, Clovis gained the support of the powerful Church of Rome. This alliance between throne and altar gave his dynasty legitimacy and helped shape the future of France as a Catholic nation. Now, if you're still with me and finding this fascinating, go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you haven't yet. Trust me, we're just scratching the surface. Clovis united much of what would later become France. But after his death, the Merovingian dynasty faced the same problem many royal families faced: succession disputes, power struggles, and weakening control. By the 7th century, real power began shifting away from the kings themselves. The kings were still there, but they became more like figureheads. The true rulers were the so-called mayors of the palace. These were powerful officials who managed the kingdom's day-to-day affairs, while the kings sat in luxury, but with little influence. This is where history takes another twist. By the 8th century, the kings had lost almost all real power. The last Merovingian king, Childeric III, was eventually deposed in 751 by a man named Pepin the Short, father of the great Charlemagne. This marked the end of Merovingian rule, and the beginning of the Carolingian dynasty. So, that should have been the end of the story, right? A dynasty that rose, claimed a mythical origin, and then faded into the past? Well, not quite. And this is where the story gets even more mysterious. Because while the official Merovingian kings were gone, whispers about their bloodline continued to circulate. And centuries later, they became linked with one of the most powerful and secretive groups of the Middle Ages, the Knights Templar. The Knights Templar were warrior monks founded during the Crusades. They became legendary not just for their fighting, but for their sudden rise in wealth and influence. Some believe the Templars were not only protecting pilgrims but also protecting a hidden secret, perhaps a secret linked to the bloodline of the Merovingians. Could it be that they guarded descendants of this so-called sacred line? Or perhaps they uncovered ancient knowledge tied to the dynasty's origins. The Templars' unexplained fortune has always fed speculation. Where did their wealth come from? Some say they discovered treasure under the Temple of Solomon in Jerusalem. Others whisper it was tied to protecting a holy bloodline. Whatever the truth, their sudden power terrified kings and popes, leading to their dramatic downfall in the early 1300s. But as with the Merovingians, their legend only grew stronger after their fall. And here's where the story jumps forward into the world of secret societies. The idea of a surviving Merovingian bloodline has inspired groups like the Priory of Chaon and countless other shadowy organizations. According to some conspiracy theories, these groups worked behind the scenes for centuries, ensuring that the bloodline remained hidden, yet influential. Think about it. If you could claim to be descended from a divine king whose right to rule was blessed by myth, religion, and history, that's a powerful claim. Even in modern times, it could give someone a strange kind of influence. And this legend is not just buried in old manuscripts. It has found new life in popular culture. Many of you may remember the Da Vinci Code. That book and movie brought the Merovingian mystery back into the spotlight. It suggested that the dynasty might be connected to the bloodline of Jesus himself, carried through Mary Magdalene. Now, whether you believe that or not, you can see how the story keeps evolving, always staying alive in the imagination of society. And it doesn't stop there. Some modern theories even suggest that descendants of the Merovingians may still hold positions of influence in politics, banking, or secret societies today. There's no proof, of course. That's the key. But the absence of proof is exactly what keeps the legend alive. It lives in that gray zone between fact and fiction, where mystery thrives. And here's something important to think about. Why do these stories endure? Why do we still care about a dynasty that officially ended over 1,200 years ago? The answer might be simple. We as humans are drawn to mystery. We like to imagine that behind the visible world there are secret powers pulling the strings, ancient bloodlines carrying hidden authority, and sacred knowledge waiting to be uncovered. So the Merovingians, whether through fact or fiction, continue to inspire curiosity. Their mythical sea-born origin, their sacred symbols, their link to the Templars, their whispers in secret societies, and their rebirth in books and films, all of this makes them more than just a forgotten dynasty. They've become part of a larger legend about power, secrecy, and destiny. And if you're still listening right now, that means you're the kind of person who wants to dig deeper into the mysteries of history. So let me remind you once again, make sure you subscribe to this channel. That way you'll always have a seat at the table when we uncover stories that others overlook. In the end, the Merovingians may or may not still exist in blood. But as a legend, they are immortal. Every time someone whispers their name, every time a book or movie revives their myth, they rise again. They remind us that sometimes, history is not just about dates and battles. Sometimes, it's about the stories we choose to believe, and the secrets we want to chase. So the next time you hear about a king, a secret society, or even a mysterious symbol like a honeybee, ask yourself, could this be another echo of the Merovingians? The dynasty that claimed to be born of the sea, blessed by the divine, and destined to rule forever? Thank you for listening, my friends. If you enjoyed this deep dive, hit that like button, share it with others who love history and mystery, and of course, subscribe for more. Until next time, keep questioning, keep searching, and keep the fire of curiosity alive.